Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'll just kick the mic stand as I step up here. So I'm going to go right into the talk. We'll get the meditation afterwards. I feel like it's a better rhythm for what I'm talking about today. And wow, healing. I picked this topic before, and now Ryan's out because he's sick. I'm like, perfect day for a healing talk. So my talk is actually on the art of Kintsugi, a celebration of our scars. And I am sure that a lot of you are thinking, what is Kintsugi? Maybe not you, because you live in Japan.
I know.
But maybe. So Kintsugi, the word actually translates to golden joinery, and it is the art of repairing ceramic or porcelain with gold. She's like, I've heard this before. Now, real traditional Kintsugi uses a special kind of lacquer called urushi, and it's mixed with powdered gold, and more recently they also use powdered silver or platinum. Now, the philosophy of Kintsugi treats breakage and repair as part of the history of the object and not something to hide. The traditional method, I'm going to make clear, the traditional method of Kintsugi also returns the object to its full intended use. So a broken bowl can again be used as a bowl, and a broken teapot can be used again as a teapot. And this is because of that special lacquer. That lacquer is resistant to heat and cold and acid, and I think a couple of other things. So once it's completely cured, the object is completely restored, but it just has these beautiful gold lines where the breaks used to be. And I point this out because my faux Kintsugi that I brought and put on the table over there is only suitable for decoration. Elmer's glue and gold paint are not quite the same, but I think it captures the spirit of the technique at least. So why are we talking about this? What does this have to do with anything? Well, it started with an article in Unity Magazine, which I have up here with me right now. I'm going to read a little excerpt a little bit later from it. And y'all can look at it. The author told a story about a session she had with a Kintsugi artist and counselor. Kintsugi counseling. It's very interesting. And I was intrigued by this story of counseling people with Kintsugi workshops. I read several more articles. Most of them were in like Psychology Today and various psychology magazines and publications about how the art of Kintsugi can help us reframe our own healing. We often think about our scars, physical ones, emotional ones, psychological ones, as things maybe to be ashamed of and to hide from the world. But Kintsugi philosophy shows us that we don't have to do that the scars from our healing can make us even better than before, even more beautiful, even stronger. When we suffer a traumatic event, often if we've never been taught how to sit with our difficult emotions and how to accept them and embrace them, how to get to the other side so we can return to a place of calm again. If we haven't learned that, then we often shove those things off to the side. Like we don't want to deal with this difficult thing, and so we just kind of put it off to the side, compartmentalize, if you will. Sometimes this is a temporary thing. Sometimes this is just something that we do so that we can get through the immediacy of what needs to be done next. My friend who lost her husband just late last year, she was talking about this, how in the immediacy after this loss, she didn't have time to deal with it right then, because she called it, she had to deal with the business of dying. All the planning that has to take place. You have to plan the funeral, you have to deal with the funeral home and what's going to be done with the remains and so on and so forth, and a wake and whatever else. And she was like, I had to be clear and present to deal with that. And then once that was all over, then she could sit back and really get into the grief. And of course, any sort of healing doesn't happen immediately. I mean, that takes time. Sometimes, though, it's not a temporary thing, and shoving things aside becomes what we do instead of healing. We think of those things as things to avoid at all costs, things that aren't a part of us or shouldn't be part of us, and we may not seek help until it really causes problems for us in those circumstances. It comes out as anxiety and extreme trauma responses to things that happened a long time ago that are over, that we just haven't dealt with yet, and we haven't learned to process those things to come out the other side. And we may still resist those broken bits even after we seek help. In the article, what I found really interesting, the counselor suggests to the author that she thinks of the pieces of the vase. Part of the therapy is she brings a thrift store vase, something cheap, and then breaks it herself, and then goes through the process of putting it back together using Kintsugi. So the counselor suggests that she think of the pieces of the vase as puzzle pieces instead of broken pieces. And I thought this was interesting. I think this can be helpful for all of us when we're thinking about our healing and those bits that we're trying to resist that really we need to incorporate back into ourselves. We're not broken. Our pieces just got scattered, like a jigsaw puzzle. And our healing involves putting our pieces back where they belong. And that healing can make us stronger. And often it does when we actually heal properly. I forgot to pull it. Give me a sec, I have a really good story. I have told it before. So this, I copied and pasted from something that somebody copied and pasted on Facebook. And I don't know who the actual person was, but it comes from Tumblr user Lulapants. So whoever you are, Lulapants, thank you for the story. I've used it. This is at least the second time now. My dad and I once had a disagreement over him using the adage, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." I said, "That's just not true. Sometimes what doesn't kill you leaves you brittle and injured or traumatized." He stopped and thought about that for a while. He came back later and said, "It's like wood glue." He pointed to my bookshelf, which he helped me salvage a while ago. He said, "Do you remember how I explained that once we used the wood glue on them, the shelves would actually be stronger than they were before they broke?" I did. But before we used the wood glue, those shelves were broken. They couldn't hold up crap. If you had put books on them, they would have collapsed, and that wood glue had to sit a while. If we put anything on them too early, they would have collapsed just the same as if we'd never fixed them at all. You've got to give these things time to set. It sounded like a pretty good metaphor to me. But one thing I did pick up on was that whatever broke those shelves, that's not the thing that made them stronger. That just broke them. It was being fixed that made them stronger. It was the glue. So my dad and I agreed, what doesn't kill you doesn't actually make you stronger, but healing does. And if you feel like healing hasn't made you stronger than you were before, you probably are not done healing. You've got to give these things time to set. I love that story. And it goes so well with the idea of Kintsugi. It makes us stronger, but we won't be exactly the same as we were before. Positive experiences change us, negative experiences change us, and our pieces never quite fit back together exactly the same way, but that's okay. The physical story that I can tell, that bowl right there, I bought that when I was, I was in grad school when I bought that. And I love that thing. It is gorgeous. The guy who made that, he does all of them by hand, and he uses only those specific glazes that make the metallic colors, and he fires them on an open wood fire, like not in a kiln, because the actual open fire is what activates it to make those metallic colors. And we had gone to an arts market, and he was there, and he was doing stuff live. It was really, really super cool. So I love that thing. And about a year, I think it was about a year after Katrina, maybe not quite, it was in the summer, that summer after Katrina hit, a pole came down next to my apartment building with a transformer on it, and it went boom, and the transformer came through the wall of my apartment and knocked the shelf that was holding that and a whole bunch of other collectibles that I had, and sent them catapulting across the room. And I came home to a mess and almost had an aneurysm when I saw it. And there were a couple of things. I had a couple of not blown glass, but you know how they do that thing, it's almost like soldering with the glass, and they make little figurines. I had a couple of dragons that were made with like that, and they were never found again. Like, they broke into so many small pieces. I was like, I guess that's what I'm vacuuming up. I don't know, I can't even tell what it was. But there were several things that broke into pieces that I could find and put back together, and that was one of them. And for the longest time, I had just had it put it together with just glue. And I turned the one side that was really messed up around so that you could see the other side. Well, one of the pieces, I can point it out to you in a little bit, one of the pieces I hadn't found it. And like a month after I had put it all back together, as many as I could find, I found the stupid piece like off in the corner somewhere. And it wouldn't go back in because it was an actual hole. Like, all the pieces had been put back and it wouldn't fit anymore. And when I decided to Kintsugi it more recently, I'm like, I'm gonna get this piece back in there. And I ended up taking a nail file to it and filing the bits down until it kind of got in there, sort of, and fixed it in there. But it doesn't fit back in, obviously, the way it did before. And I feel like that can also be a metaphor when you have a bunch of things that you're trying to heal from. I got a bunch of those pieces back in, mostly the way they were. And then there was just this one thing that was still hanging out there. It could be the one thing that you just haven't dealt with yet. And then when you finally do, you can get that piece, you can fit that back in there mostly the way it was, but not exactly. Like, that one kind of sticks up still a little bit funny. And it just doesn't quite fit in there, but it's whole again. And I think I mean, I always thought it was beautiful, and I think it's even more beautiful with the gold on it. So it's okay if we're changed. The philosophy of Kintsugi can help us reframe so that we embrace our scars and celebrate that we're even still here and that we can heal if we want to. And that our healing can really be beautiful. This little excerpt, it's from the end of this article isn't a full article, it's actually an excerpt from a book that this woman wrote, Kathy J. Hagler. The book is called The Art of Scars. And this is the end. Looking at the Kintsugi vase I had made, I also saw myself. I had felt physically, emotionally, and spiritually broken by my experiences. But now I felt my wounds could heal, and in healing into golden scars, that I could be whole, even improved. A $2 vase, broken and mended through the process of Kintsugi, could be worth hundreds of dollars. Through the lens of Kintsugi, I could see myself as a better person because of my scars. I no longer had to hide them or be ashamed of them. My light could continue to shine through my brokenness. I could have a new beginning. I love it. The excerpt is really good. I encourage any of y'all to read it. It's available online too. I can give you that link. And now, that being said, we can go into our